While everyone's focused on training computers to process data faster, they're missing the most powerful tool that we already have, the human imagination. In this video, I'm going to reveal how understanding our own mind's creative process could revolutionize AI development. By the end, you'll see why the future of artificial intelligence isn't in bigger databases, but in teaching machines to imagine like we do.
In our quest to understand the nature of the mind itself, we find ourselves at a remarkable threshold. Welcome to Deep Thoughts, where we examine the fundamental patterns of how humans think, learn, and perceive. Our computational tools have begun to mirror aspects of our own cognition. Yet creating true artificial general intelligence requires understanding the deeper principles that guide human thought. I'm Evan Goldstein, I'm a licensed engineer and data scientist, and I invite you to join me on this journey into the very essence of what makes us think.
You probably remember a few years ago when we were all stuck inside and wearing masks all the time. I was trapped between these four walls with my family. Love them to death, but sometimes the only space that I had to myself was the space between my ears. So, sitting there feeling all cooped up, I found myself creating these incredibly detailed mental vacations. Unable to travel physically, I'd close my eyes and let my mind craft impossible but perfect destinations. One evening, I was feeling restless in my home office, and I just leaned back in my chair and was suddenly transported to a place that existed nowhere but in my imagination. The pristine white sand, the crystal clear waters from my childhood in Monterey, California stretched out before me. Instead of the usual flat horizon, my mind placed Mount Hermon from the Holy Land as a backdrop, with its snow-capped summit turning pink in the sunset. Now, what made this mental landscape so remarkable wasn't just the visual elements. My brain had woven together an entire sensory experience. The air was filled with the sizzling sounds and mouth-watering aromas of Jerusalem street food. That's when I realized something profound about human imagination. Our minds don't just store memories like files in a computer. They take these memories apart, mix them up, and then reassemble them into something entirely new, a coherent and believable experience that can feel as real as any memory. Think about the last time you had a craving for your favorite food. Maybe it was your grandmother's chocolate chip cookies, still warm from the oven. Now, in your mind, you can probably taste that perfect balance of sweet and buttery, feel the slightly crisp edge giving way to a soft center. You might even catch that unmistakable, fresh-baked aroma. But here's something fascinating. The perfect cookie that you're thinking of, it probably never existed exactly that way. Your mind just performed an incredible feat. It took the golden brown color from one batch of cookies, the perfect texture from another, and the ideal sweetness from a third, and the exact aroma from yet another memory. Without realizing it, you've created the ultimate cookie, a masterpiece that exists only in your imagination, pieced together from countless real experiences. This is what sets human intelligence apart. Your brain didn't just replay a single memory, it curated the best elements from years of cookie making and cookie encounters to construct something entirely new, but something that's completely believable. In machine terms, you weren't just retrieving stored data. You were actively creating, combining, and refining different memories into something that's greater than the sum of its parts. But what gives us this remarkable ability? Here's how our mind creates and processes your thoughts. Imagine that you're looking at something. Let's say it's a dog. And first your eyes take in that image. It's just like a camera capturing a moment. But your brain doesn't just store this as a static picture. It becomes part of your mental library. Later, when you think about that dog, your mind creates what we might call a mental projection. It's not the original dog that you saw. It's your brain's recreation of that experience of seeing the dog. You can almost see the dog in your mind's eye. This isn't just remembering. It's actually your brain generating a new experience, building it from the original memory. Your brain can then take this mental image and work with it further. It's like having an internal screen where you can not only replay movies, but it also manipulate and you can interact with them. You can bring that dog back into your thoughts whenever you want. You can examine it from different angles, place it in new contexts, or combine it with other memories to create entirely new mental scenes. This process, from seeing something to storing it as a memory, to recreating it as a thought, and then being able to project and manipulate that thought, forms the basic building blocks of how our imagination works. It's a continuous cycle of experiencing, remembering, recreating, and reimagining. This is exactly what your mind does all the time. Take that perfect cookie that you imagined earlier. Even though you weren't actually tasting or smelling anything, the experience felt remarkably real. Those sensations were generated entirely within your mind, crafted from your own thoughts. Now let's break down how this works. First, you experience thoughts through your senses. Then, through the taste, the smell, the texture of real cookies, these experiences get stored in your memory. Later, your mind reconstructs those experiences again as thoughts. And remarkably, you recall those thoughts almost as vividly as if you were experiencing them firsthand. These reconstructed memories can be remembered and they can be reimagined again and again, creating an endless cycle of creativity. The fascinating part is that each time you recall that perfect cookie, you might add new elements, maybe a hint of sea salt that wasn't there before, or a subtle caramel tone that you once tasted in a different dessert. Each reconstruction becomes its own unique memory, ready to be called upon and transformed in future imaginative exercises. What if you harness this ability to enhance your creativity? For example, when you recall a city skyscraper, your memory might first present it reaching into the clouds, which is how we typically picture them. But if you merge that thought with an image of the ocean depths, your imagination might conjure up a skyscraper descending into the dark waters instead of rising up. That's what you'll visualize, a completely original scene, a fresh thought. So let's talk about how our imagination combines different elements to create something entirely new. Now think about two separate memories: the mysterious depths of the ocean with its gentle blue glow and a modern glass skyscraper reflecting the sun. These are both experiences that you've had in reality, and they're stored away in your mental archive. But here's where the magic of imagination takes over. Your mind can take these two distinct memories and blend them together in ways that defy reality. Suddenly, you can envision that skyscraper not piercing the sky, but plunging into the ocean depths, its windows illuminating the dark waters like bioluminescent sea creatures. Your brain has taken two real-world experiences and created something fantastical, an underwater metropolis that could never exist. This isn't a random combination, it's a sophisticated process where your mind carefully overlays these memories, maintaining the essence of both while creating something entirely new. The skyscraper keeps its sleek glass walls and its geometric precision, while the ocean maintains its mysterious depths and its ethereal lighting. But together, they create an impossible yet perfectly imaginable scene. And what's fascinating is that once you create this new mental image, it becomes a memory in its own right. Even though you've never seen a skyscraper actually standing on the ocean floor, you can now recall this imagined scene just as vividly as your real memories of buildings and of ocean depths. This is how our imagination builds upon itself, creating ever more complex and creative combinations from our basic experiences. This process of combining and reimagining isn't just a modern discovery. It has deep roots in ancient philosophical traditions. In 12th century Spain, for example, the great philosopher Maimonides, who's known as the Ramban, explored similar ideas when discussing how prophets received and interpreted divine visions. He explains that prophets didn't just receive pure abstract information. Instead, they used what he called the imaginative faculty to transform divine wisdom into understandable images and concepts, often drawing from their own experiences and memories. Think of it like this. A prophet needed to convey a complex spiritual idea about protection and guidance. So they might describe something like seeing a shepherd tending their flock, taking something similar and familiar, shepherding, and using it to represent something more abstract, divine care. And this is similar to how we combined our building and our underwater scene, taking familiar elements and merging them to create new meaning. And this creative process doesn't stop just with one combination. Let's build on our underwater skyscraper scenario. Now imagine adding schools of tropical fish to the scene. Your mind can take this new element and seamlessly integrate it into the already fantastical image that you've already created. The fish, normally darting around coral reefs, are now weaving between the steel and glass corridors, perhaps using the reflective windows as mirrors for their shimmering scales. This is a perfect example of how imagination can layer multiple concepts: skyscraper, the ocean depths, and now the fish, each one adding to the richness and the surreality of the mental picture. What's remarkable is how natural this feels to our minds. Even though we've never seen office workers gazing out of their windows at passing manta rays, our brains have no trouble creating and imagining this image. We can even imagine it and animate it in our minds, maybe dolphins that are using the building's grand entrance as their morning commute, while sea anemones make homes in the decorative architecture. This ability to continuously add and combine elements, building ever more complex scenarios from simple memories and experiences, is what makes human imagination so powerful and limitless. Each new combination becomes a building block for even more creative possibilities, forming an endless chain of imaginative potential. This notion is equally relevant to dynamic visuals, commonly known as video memories. In fact, any encountered experience, whether a sight, a sound, or even your own imaginative creations, can be brought to mind and revisited at will. This combination of these self-generated experiences helps shape your thoughts, ultimately forming your entire conscious awareness. This architectural approach moves us beyond simple input-output machines towards systems that can actually engage with information on a more creative and human-like level. As mentioned previously in this conversation on awareness, memories are formed when they contribute to solving contemporary issues, either by raising questions or offering solutions. Additionally, thoughts acquire importance through their broader relevance. An AI can identify patterns from its experiences and then generalize them when beneficial, preserving essential elements while discarding superfluous details.
So, where does this leave us? We've seen that our imagination is a powerful engine, capable of layering multiple concepts: a skyscraper, the ocean depths, and the schools of fish to build rich, complex scenarios from simple memories. This ability isn't just a novelty, it is fundamental to how we think. The constant combination of these self-generated experiences, blending what we see and hear with our own internal reflections, is what ultimately forms our entire conscious awareness. While it might seem surprising to claim that all of our thoughts stem from past experiences, this idea becomes clear when you realize that we can recall not only sensory observations, but also our own previous thoughts. This endless creative cycle is the very essence of human intelligence, and it raises a critical question. If this is how our minds work, can we teach a machine to do the same?